So, Joe and Mika, this convoy that we've been looking at for now more than a week still sits somewhere outside of Kyiv. As Richard just said, the Russian military is struggling to take what amounts to a suburb of the capital city. It remains to be seen if they use bigger force. They are going after humanitarian targets, hospitals, civilians are being killed. But so far, the Ukrainians are holding up.
And as most military experts have been saying for quite some time, it's one thing to fight the Ukrainians in open fields in less densely populated spaces. It's quite another to engage in urban warfare with them, where the Ukrainians would have an advantage. We have seen city streets while they've been trying to march toward Kyiv that have been just reduced. If you look at the streets, the Russian tanks and the vehicles have just been reduced by ashes because they're just easy targets for these Ukrainians. They're easy targets even out in the country. We saw fuel supply convoys being caught yesterday. And blown to pieces and trapped. And you have Russians that are now escaping those convoys because they know they're sitting ducks. So we have, as you're looking at these terrible images, we have quite a few things going at the same time. You do, of course, have a humanitarian crisis that continues to expand. Well over 2 million people are fleeing Ukraine, and they're going west. You also, though, do have the second story that Russian troops are stalled. There was an extensive Pentagon briefing yesterday, always with the warning that this could change at any time. But at least as of yesterday, what we've said is, and what the Pentagon said, is that Russian troops have stalled. You had a general yesterday, a second general get killed in combat, 2 colonels getting killed. Not what they're expecting at all. And of course, we talk about when the oligarchs and generals are going to start responding this early in the war, when you already have 2 generals that have been killed in a war that was supposed to be a mop-up operation. And heaven knows how many Russian soldiers have been killed, perhaps 3, perhaps 5, perhaps 10,000. It's hard to say right now. And you have arms pouring in, and also Ed Luce, a Brit, would understand the importance of this. Zelenskyy, very much still alive. Churchillian, and I will say it fits him better than anybody since Churchill himself in the Battle of Britain. Here you have this Churchillian figure who's been hiding underground over the past several weeks, coming upstairs, walking into his presidential office and saying, "I am very much here." He gave his address. We are not afraid. We will continue to fight. We are not going anywhere.
Churchill with a social media account.
That's right.
is quite a combination, and not only popping up, everywhere, but actually saying where he is. Bankover Street, his offices. I am not afraid. You know where I am. I am not going anywhere. My family are here. We are not moving until we've won this war. It's impossible to sort of overstate the morale boosting, the morale stirring effect of this on the Ukrainian population and on the Ukrainian resistance. Whilst you have a leader alive who's saying this, Russia cannot possibly hope to subdue the Ukrainian population. And so my great fear is they want to get him. And so when he says, "You know where I am, I'm not moving, I'm not afraid," that is deeply admirable. It's also a risk.
Right. And again, explaining the importance of one side being so bought in to a war of liberation against another side that did not even know that they were going into combat, that most thought were just going to exercises, can't be overstated. And again, going back to the Battle of Britain, even in the worst moments, public opinion polls showed that only 3% of Britons thought that it was possible for them to lose the war. You talk to Ukrainians now, it's the same thing. Things are bleak, things are terrible, but Richard Engel and so many others that report from there say the Ukrainians aren't even making it a possibility in their mind that the Russians will ever defeat this country.
I think they understand asymmetric warfare in a way that maybe great powers don't. They keep forgetting.
But can I ask you that question?
Yeah.
Because before they went in, I asked the question, why would Vladimir Putin, after seeing his own country chased out of Afghanistan so many years ago, and after seeing the United States, the country he hates the most, being chased out of Afghanistan in a humiliating way, why would he then, a few months later, place himself in the same position where he's going to be in a country he's not going to be able to subdue? 42 million people. He's not going to be able to subdue it. Supply routes just right across the border from Poland or Romania or from other countries. I mean, he has set himself up for a miserable failure. And again, right after the United States, the folks have been on the U.S. Now, the whole world looking at Russia. He has made him not only one of the most hated men in the world, but he's also made himself, if you look at the New York Times yesterday, a man whose military is no longer feared by European powers that have spent the last 20 years fearing it.
It's a brilliant question, and I think the only answer can be that he had bad information about Ukraine. I mean, remember, this is a person who is very, very scary. You know, who doesn't just fire people, he poisons them. We've got transcripts of some of the Russian demonstrators, by the way, leaked and translated into English. There is torture going on of people who have peacefully protested in Russia. So he's a scary guy. People tell him what he wants to hear. His circles got ever narrower. And I suspect what they told him is, and it's what they, by the way, the patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church said in a sermon yesterday. They told him, he said, Ukraine is the prodigal son. We're welcoming back the prodigal son into the fold. That's the message that Putin was receiving, that these people don't have a national identity. That's a bunch of BS. We know that they're Russians. They are Slavic brothers, and they will not resist. So he's stumbled into another Afghanistan because people are scared to tell him the truth, or maybe his intelligence is so skewed it didn't even figure that out.
Well, and one final thing that's obvious, even from here, that grand military buildup that he invested all that money in was siphoned off by many military contractor into yachts and into houses. You can look at the military and see how bad it is and understand that there was no quality control. Yesterday, this was a unit after a general got killed where they were having to borrow SIM cards from Ukrainians, having their information intercepted. They're using commercial GPS devices in airplanes. They're using spare parts in their jets from American commercial aircraft, totally not secure. You'd be court-martialed in the United States if you did such a thing. It appears to be a third-rate army that can't fight other armies. They can only kill people, whether it's in Grozny or in Kyiv.
There's been a lot of corruption. It's a lot of hollowing out. One thing we should be very, very wary of and aware of is that in these military reforms Russia has been undertaking in the last few years, they've incorporated tactical battlefield nuclear weapons. They've integrated that into their military doctrine. These are lower yield nuclear weapons that can be used in the battlefield quite early on into conventional warfare. My fear is the more his conventional forces are shown up as hollow, demoralized, underfunded, the more that option becomes a viable one in Putin's mind.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.